Yo, yo. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see the Bitcoin chart? All right. Perfect. We're gonna wait a couple more minutes. Sorry for the little delay, by the way. But then we'll get started covering Bitcoin, of course. Give my thoughts, trade IDs. Also, going back to last week's stream, right? What we said there, what we were watching. We were in a long as well. We closed it. Now we entered again. We'll give my thought process on all of that. And then we'll cover Ethereum as well. We are out of longs since that last week's setup. So we'll cover that and then maybe do some altcoins as well. All right. Sandeep, Justin, Wenji, Vazer, Jesse, MBG Lifestyle. Big dump incoming. Damn. Maybe. Who knows? I'm still optimistic here. But today's daily candle will be key. And I feel like either it's going to be from here indeed that we dump further to the downside, or we're gonna see some fireworks and trade higher. I mean, sounds like the classic up or down thing, but yeah, you get the idea. I feel like this is gonna be key here. So either retest, build a higher low and see higher from there, or we're gonna slip through, see weakness and go a lot lower. But anyways, we'll talk about it in detail in a second. Kumar, hello. Make a video on how to see weekly and monthly opens. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest things you can do on a chart. You even have indicators like the Spaceman Bitcoin key level indicator, which can show you the monthly and the weekly opens, as you can see, as well as Monday high, Monday low, previous week's high, low, previous daily high, low, all of that. So check out this indicator if you want more information about that. Right, 50 people, around 50 people. Good, good amount to start, I guess. So if you enjoy the live stream, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, all of the usuals. Big thanks to Blowfin, the exchange where I'm currently trading trading futures on. If you use the link in the description and make a deposit and start trading over there, you can get some nice deposit bonuses, as well as get free access to my Discord group. My Discord group where I post more analysis, more trade IDs, and all of my trades live, where you can ask questions and stuff like that. Also currently publicly trading an account on Blowfin. So if you want to join that, all you have to do is sign up using the link in the description and making a deposit. All right. Now that that's out of the way with, let's check some charts. Starting off with Bitcoin. So first, let's talk about last week's stream and what we were watching, right? So the general idea from last week's stream, what was key about the recent price action of the last couple of weeks was this key daily range with this as a range high and this as the range low. Confirming mid-range, pretty damn pivotal, right? Support all the way here, resistance, broke above, went to the highs, swept the highs, ugly rejection. That's where we went to cautious mode, right? Targeting range lows, then from range lows, here barely swept, but a nice pump. But then we said we barely swept the lows, right? We talked about that in the last stream. We barely swept the lows. Still feel like there's going to be a lot of liquidity resting below these range low levels. So be cautious rushing into longs and look at what happened after. We saw the downside and we saw the real sweep below those range low levels. What did we say back then? What was our game plan and what we were eyeing? What we were watching was for this range not to break down and instead sweep the lows more aggressively. See this as a sweep or as a deviation that leads to higher prices, at least back into the 118 to 120k area. Why there? Clean highs all the way up there. This one as well. And then the two up here, unswept. So lots of liquidity resting there and untapped supply, the area where we started dumping from, which was up here, right? A lot of people accumulated shorts there. Didn't see any retest of that area. So that was sort of the game plan and the scenario that we were watching. So what did we do, right? We saw the dump here below those lows. We decided to go long, right? Kept our stops pretty wide and we were targeting up here. Why stops below here? Well, for the exact scenario that we have seen right now, to be honest, because always, whenever you see a sweep of range lows, always be ready for another dip, another sweep that takes out the lows once more. So that's what happened at the moment. But so from last week, we were long up here, invalidation there. We started pumping, right? But then ugly rejection on this 12-hour candle, an ugly close. And that's where I decided to close my longs back at break even, right? So our initial entry was somewhere around here. We saw price going to the right direction. We were up quite a bit, but then ugly rejection to the downside, ugly close. That's where we decided there's a high chance that we're going for the lows again. Usually when this is your deviation or your sweep of the lows, right, you don't get a rejection like that. And if you get it, it's short-lived, a quick sweep of local lows, a higher low, and then a strong rebound, a strong pump back to the highs. But that didn't happen, ugly close. So at that point we decided, well, we're trading the chart, right? We do whatever the chart is telling us. And at that point, it was more likely, in my eyes, that we would go for the lows again and sweep these lows. And at that point, right, it was, if we were going for those lows, we would get a better re-entry on longs. So that's why we closed. And then what we were watching from there, what you sometimes get on moves like this is where you have a range, right, with a range low, a range high swept, range low sweep, and then a weak reaction from the sweep, rejection, another sweep of this low, and then you see the break in market structure, and then you see the upside. And that's sort of what we're seeing right now, right? We had the initial sweep, weak bounce, weak price action, back to the lows, swept the lows again, and now sort of showing strength, okay? So I am back into longs, right? We entered on the sweep, the local sweep of these local range lows. What am I watching here? Well, exactly like I just explained. If this is the bullish price action and we can still consider this as the sweep below range lows, right? Then in my opinion, we should now hold above this price action. We could see a retest, but from there, I want to see price break above range mean and trade towards range highs from there. All right. What would invalidate if we now break below this area? Why this area, by the way? This was the sideways price action that swept these lows. We now broke above it, telling us that people were accumulating longs in this area. If we now see weakness and break back below here, close ugly down here, well, at that point, I'll get out of my longs, because at that point, it's more likely that we see another dip, and at that point, not only sweep the lows again and rip back up, but then I could really see some downside all the way towards this low, take out that one, and then maybe see relief to the upside. Okay, but that's pretty much what I'm watching here right now. So if we see strength after a retest down here, we start pumping again. This is the higher low, right? Then everything looks good for these local range highs, where I'll take some off. If not, and this rejects, gets back below here, then this can be seen as the sweep of the highs. And at that point, likely we trade lower towards this target down here, right where my stop is at the moment. So I kept that stop loss as the idea of this trade was that this would be the sweep of these lows that leads to higher prices, right, towards there. But if we do this now, that idea pretty much gets invalidated, and then I think we go for liquidity below this low, and then we'll see from there. Okay, so cautiously bullish here towards these range highs up here. If we get there, right, we do something like this, we sweep and reject, I'll likely close more, if not all of it. If we trade up here and close up here and see strength, I think we see continuation towards the 117 to 120k prices up there. All right, is that clear? Any questions? That's pretty much what I'm watching on Bitcoin. Taking it easy, trading the higher time frames, to be honest. Apart from that, right, the weekly, almost no weekly wick to the upside on the previous candle, while we took out last week's low. So that's a good thing, right? Draw could be towards here. And that's also why I want to see this area hold, because that's the weekly open right there. Weekly open. And last week's low as well, but that's quite a bit more down. But as long as we hold above the weekly open from here, right, where's the next draw on the weekly? We swept last week's low. Last week's high is unswept and barely has a wick to the upside. So I wouldn't be surprised, even if we're planning to trade lower down towards 100k, that we at least trap some more shorts by sweeping last week's high and then rejecting heavily. All right, so that's the weekly. On the daily, what do I want to see there? We just swept some highs into resistance. This is considered resistance. But if it has a strength and the idea is correct, a retest of the weekly open should hold for a move towards the highs. If we don't, right, and like I said before, if this daily candle turns red and we close ugly down here, at that point, I think we see continuation to the downside and towards this low, at least. All right, so that's my game plan for the coming hours, the coming days. So still in longs, but I will be quick to close those longs and to just sit sideways. I personally don't think it's worth it looking for shorts here, because we have dropped quite a bit from all-time highs already. And the weekly and the monthly, of course, are still in bullish territory, right? Where we go for higher highs and higher lows. If it's just the same as this and as this, right, could still see something like this and trade to new all-time highs after that. So to be honest, on the monthly, right, we could drop all the way down to 90k and it would still be the same pullback play than like we've seen on this move and on this move. So a high probability play if we see more downside. So I wouldn't mind more downside from here, because then I can look for new swing longs around, I would say 100 to 90k, 90k to 100k. From this area will be a very good entry for swing longs, at least for a retest of, at that point, weekly supply. But then if we break above there, new all-time highs. All right, is that clear for everyone? If that is clear, we'll move over to ETH. Ethereum, monthly close, very bullish, right? Wicked all-time highs, but I don't really consider this as a bearish sweep because of the monthly close and the fact we closed above these. If we would have closed below here, I would be more worried. But in my opinion, this is a very bullish monthly close. And look at the monthly already turning, wick to the downside, small wick to the upside. So if we get back above that monthly open, I think we start running for all-time highs. With that being said, on the daily, right, what we were watching last stream, we were watching this clean range here on the 4-hour time frame with range highs lining up beautifully with supply up here. What did we say? We were trading down here. What did we say? We could see upside from here, right? Together with Bitcoin going for, at that point, Monday high. Ethereum rejecting at this key supply, and look at what happened. Tapped in there, a beautiful rejection back towards here. What was my main plan, right? I was looking for a sweep below here, and I could still see that sweep happening. So what in my opinion, would be the best thing Ethereum could do is see more downside from here, sweep this into former resistance up there, and also just generally lining up with these two key weekly highs. So just if you mark it out with an area in general, that still would be considered support, right? Take liquidity below range lows, and from there reclaim and run it back to new highs. Okay, first target supply up here. After that, reclaim this and send it to 5k plus, right? So now all I'm focusing on Ethereum is this range high and this range low. If we get down to these range lows, I'll be looking for longs. What will they look like? Something like this. Keep my stops pretty wide below there, but then target supply, as you can see, already 1.6, 1.7 R, and target new all-time highs for even more risk to reward. Different place if we don't go for the sweep. What am I watching? Once again, if we do this, that would be still an ugly sweep of these local highs into supply with an unswept range low. So then I wouldn't FOMO into any longs up here, at least, because I could see the rejection from there and still trade down towards those range lows. If we pump above the supply and see strength in here, then it's more likely that we break out and straight up trade higher from there. If we go for the lows, right, and we close ugly down here and stay below here, right, see weak price action, then I think it's down to this low, sub 3.4k, all the way into the 3k area, and I'll be looking for fresh longs on a sweep below here, something like that. All right, but those are the highest probability plays in my opinion. So for now, basically trading in the middle of nowhere. I have no business looking for longs or shorts right here. But the main play that I'm looking to take would be a sweep of these lows, a reclaim, and then look to long it, at least back to supply, but ideally to new all-time highs. All right. BNB maybe. Still one of the better looking charts. The weekly trading into all-time highs. Very strong. Weekly time frame, you see these wicks. If this one turns into the green again, I wouldn't be surprised if we just keep pumping to new all-time highs. Still targeting 1K for this one. Not in any swing longs or anything, but just holding spot for this one as that's the easiest. We did sweep this weekly high up here. The opposite side of that is all the way down here. Am I straight up targeting down here? No, but could I see it happening? Of course. First target to downside are all of these lows. Possibly sweep them. Time it with Ethereum, time it with Bitcoin. If Ethereum sweeps these lows right there and BNB sweeps these and sees strength, I could see us move to all-time highs from there. If not, and it's looking weak, it dumps like towards right here, closes bearish, then I would wait for the sweep into $700, somewhere around there. And then same thing as Ethereum, look for longs there or wait for the reclaim of this range low and then trade it back to supply up here and possibly the breakout to new all-time highs. But for now, once again, pretty much middle of nowhere. So yeah. What else do we have? Sol. Yeah, still being a little... Yeah, I'm not sure what to call it. It was looking better last week, right? And was looking pretty damn strong, but we keep having difficulties with breaking this level right here. So until we have a clean break above there, I would be cautious. We just swept some highs as well. If you mark them out on the daily, as you can see, the good thing is that we have multiple sweeps. They keep rejecting, but we keep grinding back up higher. And as you guys know, the more we retest a resistance area, the higher the chance that we break above. So if we get back above here again, I wouldn't be surprised if we run. But at the same time, we're still below resistance. So I could still see at any point downside towards the opposite side, just like BNB, just like Ethereum. This is the opposite side of the range, but we have some clean lows before that. So sweep that, time it with the others. If you see weakness down here, wait for the sweep below here. If not, and you see strength from there, that could be a great entry for higher prices. All right. What else do we have? Bird. I posted my long ID. I bought spot, extra spot, of course. But let me show you the setup, right? So I was talking about Bird. I think it was from down here that I thought it was bottoming. From there, great play, right? But big ass range that formed, swept the lows, mid-range pivotal, as you can see, all the way here, here, here. And then finally we got the breakout, started running. Now all we're doing is sweeping lows, right? Sweeping lows into the retest of that key level. Key pivotal area at these range lows. Long range that's being formed from January all the way to August, broke out, and now we're simply seeing the retest on the weekly. That's not something you want to sell, in my opinion. If it gets back below here, right, and does something like this, at that point I would understand people flipping bearish or at least being cautious for a move back towards range lows. But from here, we literally saw a weekly breakout, a strong close on the weekly, right, as you can see, and now a weekly sweep, last week's low, swept into the retest of that level, key pivotal area. So in my opinion, great entry to target the opposite side, which is up here. So that's why I bought spot more. invalidation below this range mean, also below daily demand, and target new highs. All right, just a key, like it's just basic SR, as you can see right here. Support, broke below, resistance, 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 and now clean break above, and now sweeping the lows into the retest. So BERT is literally one of the cleanest setups and one of the cleanest charts there is out there at the moment. What's the opposite, in my opinion, and what's the opposite side of this pivotal area, right? From these support areas, we went up to these as a resistance area. So in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it ranges a bit here, right? Does something like this, but then I see the breakout and the continuation towards these highs up here. And from there, we'll have to see if it sweeps and rejects. It will be ranging from here to here, right? Pivotal area, range, range, range. If it breaks above here, then it's targeting all-time highs. All right, but you get the idea. It's a classic SR flip, broke out of the range, retest. That's not something you sell into, in my opinion. So I hope this makes sense. And that's pretty much it for today, I think. I covered most that I wanted. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Sol, BNB, and then BERT, as I bought more yesterday. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm watching these days. If you guys have any questions or any requests, feel free to ask them in the chat. El Romano, welcome, man. All right, let's do some requests. Only Binance and Binance Bybit, the main exchanges, by the way. So let's take a look at this one. Yeah, see, immediately when you check the weekly, that's not something I like to see. Pivotal area around here, basic SR, right? Consolidation, retest, broke below, resistance, resistance, broke back above, support, one more tap, solid run up, but swept the highs up here into supply. So as long as we don't reclaim this area right here, I think we're trapped in between this gray area and this gray area. So buying dips in here, these equal lows are not something you want to see though. Possibly sweep these lows, that could be a great entry, simply back towards there. But if you're really looking for significant upside, I would wait for a weekly break above this supply area. Let's see the daily. Yeah, see, just grinding lower. So in the middle of nowhere right here, I wouldn't want to do any business right here. Better. Let's see, what's this? Weekly significant downside to this low. Highs swept. Daily clean lows below. So what I would wait for here is something like this. Downside, sweep the lows, and if you then see strength and reclaim, that's where you get long, targeting range highs and possibly a breakout to target higher up there. But from here, Not interested in anything. Retest up here could be a nice short towards the lows. Ondo. I have Ondo right here. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty much dead, you know. Weekly range, range lows, range highs swept, range lows swept, range highs swept. Where do you get excited? On a break above here, then you target higher, up here probably. But for now, in the middle of nowhere. And clean lows below. So at least wait for a sweep here before looking for anything. But I would just wait for a break above these range highs here. Link. Let's see. Link is looking pretty solid if I remember correctly from last week. Let's clean it up a bit. Let's start from clean chart. Monthly, big close, but swept some highs up here. Weekly, yeah. Right there. What's the key pivotal area for Link? I would say up here. If you draw it from all the way, it's just a pivotal area in general. There. Resistance, support, support, broke below, resistance, 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 support, resistance, broke back above, swept some highs. So higher probability plays if you want to target like significantly higher towards up here. I would wait once again for a break above here and then buy the breakouts, or look for sweeps into this pivotal area, something like this, and look for longs there. Lower time frames, we have a key weekly low right there. Let's mark that out. Yeah, and as you can see, some lower time frame lows as well. So I'd be waiting here for a dip as well, something like this. Sweep those lows into this pivotal area, into former resistance, and then look for a reaction, at least back to supply up here, right? And from there, if you see the breakout, we can target a lot higher. But right here, same as everything pretty much, middle of nowhere. Wait for lower prices to look for buys, or wait for the breakout higher, I would say. But overall, Link definitely is one of the better looking charts on the higher time frames, in my opinion. Strong monthly close, strong. Yeah, the current monthly is looking solid as well, but could dip lower first, in my opinion. Phil. Yeah, this one's dead. Why would you want to trade something that looks like this? This is dead, man. I would take a look at something else. What do you think about Solana? We already did Solana. You'll be able to rewatch the stream. So yeah, overall, I feel like everything could use some more downside. I think Bitcoin is looking one of the best, but looking at some other charts, I wouldn't be surprised if we need another sweep as well. Looking at it on the daily, like we'll have to see something exciting soon, or I feel like the chance that this daily turns red increase a lot. And if it turns red, it's gonna be looking very ugly, and I would be targeting that low right there. So yeah, but those dips will be very nice to buy in my opinion. Think about Link, think about Ethereum, think about BNB, some juicy dips to buy there. All right, Kaito. Yeah, I mean, I expected way more from Kaito. It's at demand at range lows at the moment, but I'd wait for a more aggressive sweep and a rebound. If you see that, then target some highs. But from here, yeah, daily not looking healthy. At least one more sweep of the lows in my opinion. But overall, I expected way more from this one. Expected way more strength. And overall, it's looking very weak. Doggy. Or Doge, whatever you want to call it. Still same thoughts from last stream. What did we say there? We swept some highs into range mean, right? And got rejected, right? Swept, rejected. So we were bearish unless we reclaimed this range mean, which we didn't. So now I think back to this low. From there, sweep, boom, reclaim, target the highs again. Everything pretty much in a big range, so no point in targeting a lot higher on all of these until you reclaim some key levels. WLFI, is that the one that like broke down? Yeah, I wouldn't bother with this one. It's like one of those scam coins. Maybe if it sweeps the lows aggressively and reclaims them, you could have a nice play to some highs, but overall I'd stay away from this one. Feel like that's the safer option. Say yeah, I posted about this one in the Discord recently, where I said this was looking bearish as well. It was like up here, I think, swept the highs, retest just like all the rest of them with clean lows below here. So at least targeting these lows, clean sweep and reclaim, that could be your play. But for now, waiting game. Just like with a lot of the rest of the charts. So I would wait for some aggressive dips on basically everything. And then look for longs on those buys. And not necessarily straight up target new all-time highs, but simply target some local highs, some local supply areas where you previously saw resistance. Target there, get out or get out of like 60-70% and hold some in case we get the breakout. But feel like a lot of things are in a range, and then you should play them like that and not be delusional and target new all-time highs. All right. Bitcoin dominance I don't really use, so yeah, not gonna take a look at it. It's like a meme for me, to be honest. All right, but that's gonna be it for today. Quick live stream, quick thoughts, like basically a live market review that I recorded. Did some requests, gave you my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. You will be able to rewatch if you want later on. Like I said, I'd be waiting for some aggressive dips and then get into the market again. For now, big waiting game for me. All right, if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.